The rain fell in cold, relentless sheets. The night detective Clara Evans stood at the edge of the abandoned Redwood Motel parking lot, flashlight trembling in her grip. Beside her, Duke, the department's seasoned K9, a scar-faced German shepherd with tired eyes and an unbreakable spirit, pulled at his lead, nose to the cracked asphalt, tail stiff with alert. No one had stepped inside this forsaken place in years, but tonight something, or someone, was calling Duke in like a ghost from the shadows. When he suddenly lunged, snapping free and disappearing into the darkness toward room 6, Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. What Duke found behind that warped door would shatter her hardened resolve and change the lives of everyone on the force forever. If you believe in the power of kindness, second chances, or the loyalty of animals like Duke, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel, Justice on Paws. Every click helps us spread stories that remind us all why we fight for the voiceless. Duke's paws splashed through puddles as he disappeared inside the motel's yawning corridor, his nails clicking on the filthy linoleum. Clara ran after him, every step echoing with her doubts. Why now? Why here? The Redwood Motel had been closed for nearly a decade, a moldy carcass of forgotten memories and whispered urban legends. The squad had received an anonymous tip about suspicious activity, but no one expected much more than teenagers or junkies hiding from the world. Clara's flashlight beam swung wildly as she reached room 6, the number half hanging from the door like a loose tooth. Inside, Duke stood frozen, nose pressed against a stained mattress, his tail wagging low and tentative, ears pinned back in confusion. Then Clara heard it, a soft whimper that cracked the silence like glass. Pushing past the rank smell of mildew and decay, Clara shone her light toward the sound. There, huddled beneath the bed frame, were two small shapes, shivering, fragile, eyes reflecting the beam like frightened marbles. Puppies, no more than a few weeks old, ribs showing, formatted with filth. Beside them lay an old blanket and a cracked water bowl, half empty but pushed out of reach by tiny, desperate paws. Duke lowered himself to the floor, belly to the grimy tiles, and whimpered back at them, a low, coaxing growl that seemed to say, "It's okay now. You're safe." Clara's chest tightened as she crouched next to him. She thought of her own childhood, bouncing between foster homes, the sting of being forgotten, invisible. She thought she'd buried that part of her past deep enough to never feel again. But these pups, abandoned, starving, left to fend for themselves in a ghost motel, stirred something roar inside her, something that Duke had never let her forget completely, that no one should be left behind. She radioed for backup, her voice cracking as she forced out the words. Officers arrived to sweep the premises, finding signs of squatters long gone, empty cans, syringes, a soiled mattress in another room. No mother dog in sight, no clues about who had left the pups behind. As Clara carried the shivering babies out in her coat, Duke trotted at her side like a proud father, never once taking his eyes off them. He had chosen this path, sniffed out this hidden corner of cruelty and despair, and now Clara could only wonder what might have happened if he hadn't pulled free. Back at the station, under the harsh fluorescent lights, the reality of their find sank in. The vet on call confirmed what Clara feared: the puppies were malnourished, dehydrated, but miraculously infection-free. They needed warmth, food, care, and above all, trust. The team rallied around them, officers who had spent years chasing criminals now sitting on the floor of the break room, coaxing the pups to drink milk from a syringe, whispering gentle words that seemed to soften even the hardest men and women among them. And Duke? Duke never left their side. When one of the pups yelped in its sleep, he was there, licking its tiny head, curling his big body around them like a living fortress against every cruelty the world had ever shown. Days turned into weeks. The Redwood Motel case went cold, no fingerprints, no security footage worth salvaging, but in the hearts of everyone on the force, something else took root. The puppies, named Hope and Shadow by the unit, grew stronger. They learned to trust again, first Duke, then Clara, then the whole station. Officers took turns sleeping in the K9 unit's room when the puppies needed company at night. They brought toys, blankets, treats, tiny gestures that meant everything to two lives that had started with nothing. For Clara, the bond that formed during those sleepless nights healed more than just the pups. She found herself sitting on the floor with Duke's big head resting in her lap, whispering stories she'd never told another soul. She remembered the night her mother left, the years of silence in places that smelled like bleach and stale bread. She realized that Duke hadn't just saved those puppies, he'd reminded her that love doesn't fade just because it's buried. It waits, patient and fierce, like a canine with a nose for the lost. As Hope and Shadow found their feet, playful, mischievous, tumbling over each other and barking at shadows, the station buzzed with new energy. The detectives who once grumbled about extra paperwork now arrived early to sneak in puppy cuddles before their shifts. Calls came in from local families wanting to adopt them, but the unit decided they couldn't part with them. Hope was to train as the next K9 alongside Duke, a living legacy of the bond that changed them all. Shadow, more timid, would become the station's emotional support dog, assigned to visit schools, hospitals, and children's homes to remind everyone that even the smallest, weakest voices matter. On the day Hope first barked back at Duke during training, Clara stood back and let the tears come freely. She watched Duke nudge the younger dog into line, patient but firm, just as he had guided Clara through every hard day when she thought she'd break. In that rundown motel, where others saw rot and ruin, Duke had seen life worth saving. He had run straight into darkness and dragged light out with him, tail wagging, eyes bright, asking nothing in return but a scratch behind the ears and maybe a treat or two. So when you see a stray, or hear a bark echo in the night, remember Duke. Remember Hope and Shadow. Remember that sometimes it takes the heart of an animal to show us how to be human again. If this story of loyalty, second chances, and unexpected hope touched your heart today, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness still wins, leave us a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to Justice on Paws for more true stories that prove heroes were for too. Thank you for believing in the power of compassion, and for never turning away when you see a light flickering in the dark.